It's week 9 of the NFL. We'll discuss our favorite plays on the main slate on FanDuel and prepare a full cash and GPP lineup coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
All right, Michael, we are just 2 weeks left for people to qualify for the free-to-enter $200 prize pool contest on FanDuel. We're only going to have 18 qualifiers. So it's not like one of those big contests where thousands of people will enter. It will only be you 18 plus Michael and me. And how do you qualify? Just enter into the comment section your best takes on the main slate for week 9. Let's do a quick shout out for the week 8 takes. Congratulations to Robert Alderman for his Cole Beasley take, 110 yards, and Rocky Patel for nailing Joe Mixon. He was the second highest scoring running back on the slate.
Folks, if you enjoy the show, please remember to always smash the like button, share that video with your friends, and hit the red subscribe button followed by the bell icon. We really appreciate it.
All right, let's go to the studio and put together our cash lineup on FanDuel. All right, Michael, on the main slate for week 9 on FanDuel, and I catch my eye immediately. Christian McCaffrey, they're not fooling around on FanDuel. DraftKings had him at 8,000. FanDuel said, no, if there's any chance, we're bumping him up 5 digits. So we're not interested in McCaffrey, even if he is active at that price. But the guy I am excited about can do his own Christian McCaffrey impersonation, who's quietly having a very good year in an excellent game environment this week. Let's go to running backs, and he should be on the list, but he got to go down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's not the 6th best running back on the main slate this week, but that's what he's priced. Ezekiel Elliott. Look at the game environment. He's a home favorite, now up to 9 points, 29 implied total. Look at the touches this guy has gotten. 20, 24, 22, 20, and 20 the last 5 weeks. Very consistent. I love his involvement in the passing game. Getting Dak Prescott back, I think, is even going to help more, and because the offense will be moved more. I love Ezekiel Elliott this week, Michael, for 8,200.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with the assessment in terms of where he ranks versus the guys above him. And from a cost savings perspective, relatively, I like this pick. It allows us to do some things at wide receiver, but I don't think it makes sense to do much else at running back because of the cost and the differentials you see in FanDuel, especially versus DraftKings. So we got to save some money here. Let's go with a guy who also has a great game script going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Zach Moss, who I was a little disappointed by his usage this last week against Miami in terms of the rush yards, but I think he's now he's the number one guy. He's getting the touches out of the backfield as well in the passing game. I'm looking for him to rack up the yards this week. Not sure he'll put up the numbers like Zeke Elliott would, but given his price, I think it's worth the discount to go with Zach Moss. What do you think?
Yeah, I think some people out there may be going, but what about Devin Singletary? Don't worry about Devin Singletary. Moss has out-carried him 3 straight games, plus he gets involvement in the passing game that we like. If you want to worry about somebody, worry about Josh Allen. He's the guy that keeps stealing more carries and, more importantly, goal line carries. But we think the pie is going to be really big this week as 14-point favorites at home, 31 implied total, and at only $6,000. Yes, he's going to share carries with other folks, but the pie is big.
Yeah, this game is on the road, just to make sure to get that in there. But, I mean, it's in Jacksonville and the 14 points. Come on. By far the biggest spread.
It could be on the moon. Buffalo is going to dominate.
So let's go to wide receiver here. Let's go with the guy who's got not only a really high floor, but gives us one of the highest ceilings this week Yeah, he's the most expensive wide receiver. Yeah, it shows he's got an illness. He's coming off of the COVID protocol. He should be back practicing on Thursday. Double check that just in case he's got an extended stay from that. But he should be extra healthy because he didn't play last week. The Packers should be extra healthy because they played last Thursday. And Devonta Adams is going to get his touches against one of the worst defenses in the league. I'm sad to say it. These Kansas City Chiefs have been atrocious against the pass, against the run, overall.
Yeah, and they're just so great to go up against because Kansas City still has great weapons on the offensive side. So it's not a situation that Green Bay can just blow them out and start running the ball at the end of This is going to be a shootout, back and forth, obscene 54.5 over under. Devonta Adams, I like him this week. And, one Devonta is not enough, Michael. Let's put another Devonta out there. We get to save money with this Devonta, but he's become, like Adams, Parker has become the number one wide receiver on his team. He had been hurt earlier this year, and now he is averaged 9 targets per game in the last 4 games. Tua, the quarterback, is definitely helps that offense. And look at the defenses that Miami has drawn, and specifically Parker. Buffalo twice. What a welcome sign to get Houston coming to town. A team that their defense is just awful. So let's get Devonta Parker at a reasonable $6,200 price. Number one wide receiver against a bad D.
Yeah, no, exactly. Get this bad defensive backfield will be good for him to put up some nice points at 6,200.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about this guy because the disrespect happens week after week after week, and partially because he hasn't had a blown out game. But I still say Stephon Diggs is a quality wide receiver, one of the best in the NFL, and you get him at $7,600 in a great game environment. Who does the scheduling for Buffalo, Michael? Look at the defenses that they've had the joys to play against, and it continues. Playing Jacksonville. I mean, you talk to me, Michael. Why isn't Diggs been featured anything like he was featured in the past as far as touchdowns and receptions? He's getting targets.
Yeah, no, I think part of it's that the Buffalo Bills are taking advantage of the fact that he's maybe got more bracketed coverages than others. And so, when they adjusted for that, I think the Steelers did a really good job against that. Then they started to put more points up, but now they've been able to come back to him because in the last few weeks, because of how dangerous other parts of the offense have been. Part of it's also that just Allen has not quite been as accurate as he was last year, but he's looking a little bit better these last few weeks, which bodes very well for Stephon Diggs. It's 7,600. Nice pricing there.
All right, at tight end, this guy was just obscenely cheap at on DraftKings at only I think $3,000, but for pricing for FanDuel, you don't get much cheaper at $5,200 than Tyler Conklin. And I'm shocked, given FanDuel's pricing, that he is so cheap. You look at the players who are around him. The guy has been getting consistent targets. Even though he hasn't gotten touchdowns, as long as Minnesota can get into the red zone, he's a guy that he's in the game. He runs routes. He's a big target. He certainly has a touchdown upside, and just a dream matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. They are last against the pass. They are last against tight ends. Well, FanDuel says they're 31st. Anyway, they're bad. So being a pass catching tight end's a good thing, and so is the price.
Yeah, no, Minnesota needs to do a better job adjusting to what's coming their way. And this week, what's coming their way is Baltimore is not good against tight ends.
All right. So, Michael, I got something special planned for the flex. So let's do that one last. Tell us at quarterback.
Okay, so at quarterback, let's make sure we're going to get somebody who is a dual threat, because I feel like that those are the guys you can count on week in and week out. We can't quite afford Josh Allen, but he's obviously a dual threat. And it's possible that this Jacksonville game does get a little out of hand and he stops playing as aggressively. But I don't think Lamar Jackson will have that luxury. And so to me, he's the next best guy up. Kyler Murray is potentially not going to play this week, and he's certainly not going to be 100%. So I think Lamar Jackson is certainly worth the extra $100 here, and he gets a matchup where he should put up some points. And look what he's done every week. I mean, other than that Chargers week where they got up big and were able to kind of pack it in, he has put up points, a lot of points every week with some really big upside as well.
Yeah, and the game environment's great. He really is at home. He's a home favorite, 5.5 point favorite, 28 implied total, and almost 50 over and under. This is going to be a high scoring game. So defenses, look, folks, we're gonna do what we have been doing almost every week this year. We're gonna go straight to the bottom and see what we can get as a defense we can stomach. And Michael, can't stomach the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cannot do it. Sorry. So they're out. But look at the Atlanta Falcons here. An Atlanta Falcon team. Look, I'm not going to try to sell you guys a bill of goods. 31st out of 32 teams in sacks. So they're not an aggressive defense. But they're a defense that is only a 6-point dog. So it's not like the grain skips should get horrible against them. And they face a New Orleans team that just lost their starting quarterback. So either they got to go with Trevor Siemian or they got to go with Taysom Hill in his very first start, or one of the first starts that he's had all year. I like this Atlanta defense, given the different other options around this price zone.
Yeah, I think that you said the magic words right there at the end. When you start with, I like this Atlanta defense, I almost kind of choked a little bit, but when you compare it to the other options, I mean, I don't want to go up against a stellar offense like you have with some of these other fantasy teams. So, yep, this is the right pick if you're trying to save some money for your special flex pick. Let's hear it.
All right, so, well, I have a pivot for you. So go ahead, tell them what our flex player is, but then I have a pivot.
Okay. All right. So we're looking, well, what do we have left here? We have, I can't see because you're for some reason covered on our extra dollar. We got 6,300. So let's look right around that range. And since it's FanDuel, I always like to go with the running back if I can over a wide receiver. And since all these guys are wide receivers and tight ends, it looks like we're left with Myles Gaskin. And now, I know Myles Gaskin had a couple of atrocious weeks, but he has been very involved in both the passing game and been their workhorse from the run perspective. And this week they have the Houston Texans. So he gets those touches. I mean, look at the touches that he's getting every week, 15 plus touches in a lot of those weeks, save perhaps maybe that Jacksonville game. And I think he didn't he get hurt in that game, or he was out for part of that game. That was the game everybody got disappointed in him. But I think he's got a pretty high floor and some upside against this Houston Texans team. What do you think?
Yeah. If you're Myles Gaskin, Michael, I anoint you Myles Gaskin, and you had to face Buffalo twice and the Tampa Bay defense, how happy would you be to face Houston?
Yeah, no, yes. Exactly.
If you're wondering, Houston is 31st ranked rush defense. So home favorite, 7-point favorites, game script should be pretty good, 27 implied total. I liked his involvement in the passing game. So at his price, only $6,100. I personally like Gaskin more than Zach Moss, and Gaskin's only $100 more. Both guys, we can get into the lineup. Now, I need to comment about something that I'm sure will upset some people. So let me address it. Let's hope that people listen to this video. We have two sets of guys who are on the same team. Zach Moss and Stephon Diggs, Devonta Parker and Myles Gaskin. A lot of people go, aren't you putting too much eggs in one basket? Well, they're not necessarily correlated. In a way, to me, picking a quarterback and a wide receiver in cash games where you want a high floor, not necessarily a high ceiling, is dangerous. Picking two guys in the same game, I think, is okay as long as, A, you see the game as high scoring. Both Buffalo and Miami have really high implied totals, and you really like the price of both guys. And I think there's real savings on all four of those guys. Now, if you just can't stomach it, obviously change the lineup. But one pivot I have to get rid of one of them is this one, Michael. What is this lineup missing, Michael? It has Devonta Adams. It has Devonta Parker. It needs another Devonta. So how about Devonta Booker? Devonta Booker, you can replace Myles Gaskin with Devonta Booker. And at $6,300, we have the $200 in order to do it. Obviously, what is it that we need to make sure of? We need to make absolutely sure Saquon Barkley is out and will not play. He hasn't played for several weeks. It's unclear. He hasn't started practicing. So if Barkley's active, then obviously you don't want to do this. But assuming Barkley's out, I actually like this play over Myles Gaskin. And you saw it just last week, 20 touches. I sprung that on you, Michael. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. So he won me my fantasy game in my league this week because he had such a good outing against Kansas City. He was on almost every single snap for the New York Giants, who looked really bad, by the way, but he was the one shining spot. And I think that just bought him a little more usage this week. And so I think he could have a very good week. I was just assuming Barkley was going to be playing this week. I hope he is, because that's the reason I had to play Booker, is because I had, Saquon sitting on my bench for the third week in a row.
He faces your Las Vegas Raiders, who are the 29th rush ranked defense. So I will actually go ahead and slip him in. Here's the thing with Saquon Barkley. They have a bye in week 10. So it really, when he's your franchise player, unless you're 100% sure, it makes a lot of sense to hold him out this week in week 9. And then you get your bye in week 10, and he gets 2 extra weeks. So that's why I think there's a good chance that they hold him out. Regardless, watch the news. And if Barkley's out, Booker is a nice guy to slide in the lineup. Let's take a look at GPP. In GPP, we always start with a stack. And boy, did we go all out in this stack. It's a super expensive stack, but we're just attacking by far the highest scoring game expected with a ridiculously high 54.5 over under. And equally important, a very close spread, only 2.5. So one team, it should go back and forth. It should be a shootout. So we're going to take Aaron Rodgers to by far his favorite target, Devonta Adams. And then we'll run that by with the guy with the highest ceiling, Tyreek Hill.
Nothing I can say about that. Then if that pays off, it doesn't really matter what happens to the rest of our lineup.
Well,
which is good because you spent all our money.
It gets so the other really big play wide receiver in another game where their implied total is 29, so a lot of points should be scored, is Amari Cooper. And the one thing we say about Amari Cooper is when he goes off, he really goes off, as evidenced by the very first game this season. Now, Dak Prescott should be back, and I want him to be back. So I know that they get Michael Gallup. I think that actually can be helpful. Maybe that'll cause some attention to be on defense away from him. What do you think about Cooper?
Yeah, no, I think Amari Cooper, the only concern I have with him is he did tweak his hamstring, or actually it might have been his quad. I think it was his hamstring in that game, but he came back and scored a key touchdown against Minnesota, the game-winning touchdown. So as long as he's 100%, I think that's something we're checking out. I really like his upside, even though, his counterpart seems to get more of the attention from a pass catching perspective.
We already talked about Moss, Conklin, and Gaskin, but Cordarrelle Patterson is on our lineup for $7,000. I really see this guy having a lot of upside with Calvin Ridley stepping out and not available. They don't have a lot of offensive weapons in the passing game. So especially when defenses last week double teamed poor Kyle Pitts. But that's much harder to do to Patterson if he's lining up out of the backfield. So I like Patterson.
Yeah, don't be deceived about this second, best defense against. That's because of the running game. Cordarrelle Patterson is valuable because of his pass catching ability. And so, I like the upside here, but I do think there's some risk there that the Saints can really keep this offense down.
Okay, so and we already talked about the Falcons. So that is our GPP lineup. Until we see you for week 10, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Stay safe.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.